Have you ever looked at people who seem to, I don't know, effortlessly achieve remarkable things, whether it's soaring in their careers or building incredible businesses or just living a life that feels, well, full of purpose and impact? It's easy, isn't it, to think they must just be inherently smarter, maybe born with some. Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to understanding 9 fundamental qualities that truly unlock lasting achievement. We'll explore not just what these qualities are, but the deeper why behind them, how you can actually cultivate them in your own life, and maybe what surprising long-term impact they can have. Get ready for some aha moments, hopefully, that might just illuminate your own path, your own shortcut to success. Okay, let's unpack this then. Our first crucial quality, meticulousness and thoroughness. Now, this might seem like a quiet trait, right? Kind of unassuming. It's not the flashy skill you'd put in bold on a resume, maybe. But in the real world, at work, the difference it makes is just profound. It's a vital skill that makes ordinary people stand out consistently. It becomes this quiet differentiator. So what exactly is meticulousness, and why does it have such an outsized impact?
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how this seemingly small, quiet habit meticulousness isn't just about avoiding mistakes. Not at all. It's about building a really profound level of trust and psychological safety with the people around you. It becomes the foundation for daring to take on bigger responsibilities later on. See, people who are truly meticulous, they don't just rush decisions without verifying things first. They get that tiny errors, especially at critical moments, can lead to significant, really hard to fix damage down the line. Think of it like building a house, maybe. A single loose nail or one unverified measurement might seem minor initially.
Right, just a tiny detail.
Exactly. But later, it could compromise the whole structure. The meticulous person sees that potential flaw and they fix it right at the earliest stage. Now, there's a common misconception, though. People think meticulousness is the same as like overthinking or getting stuck in analysis paralysis or maybe just being slow.
Yeah, I can see that. The
But,
person who takes forever to send an email because they're checking it for the 10th time.
well, yes and no. Those are fundamentally different things. Overthinkers often get stuck in their heads, right? They're paralyzed by the fear of making a mistake, and so they don't move forward at all. Meticulous individuals, though, they think systematically. They check information rigorously, they filter out risks, and then, based on that thorough preparation, they actually dare to make decisions. So, a meticulous person isn't necessarily slow, often quite the opposite. They frequently work faster because they don't have to keep backtracking to fix errors. Someone who lacks thoroughness might save a bit of time up front by taking shortcuts, sure,
We've all seen that happen.
but they end up losing far more time later when problems inevitably surface and need fixing. Big time fixing sometimes.
That's such a critical distinction. It makes me think about how much time is wasted in organizations just fixing preventable errors. It's huge. So if it's not about being slow, but being efficient and thorough, how does someone actually cultivate this habit? It feels more like a mindset shift than just a task list, you know?
You're absolutely right. It starts as a mindset and then it manifests as a habit. And cultivating this vital habit, it begins with surprisingly small daily actions.
Yeah.
Really small. It could be something as simple as reading an entire email before you reply, rather than just skimming and missing a key detail. We all do that sometimes, right?
Guilty as charged, definitely.
Or it's about meticulously checking documents, maybe 2 or 3 times before you send them off, especially if they're important. Or even just taking a moment right at the end of a task to review if it truly meets its objectives. Does it serve its purpose? Instead of just hitting send or done and moving on, these seemingly small behaviors, they train your brain to think before acting. And that embeds meticulousness as a deep-seated habit. And when this habit is really ingrained, it directly impacts your ability to make significant decisions later in life. It stops you making hasty conclusions or reacting impulsively based on, fleeting emotions. Instead, you become someone who sees the bigger picture, analyzes rationally, and makes conscious, well-considered choices.
I can totally see how that would build trust. It's like you're silently signaling to everyone, I've got this. You don't need to worry about the details with me. What's the psychological impact of that? Not just on others, but maybe on the person themselves.
That's a brilliant observation. This quality sends a really powerful psychological signal. It communicates to those around you that you genuinely care, not just about the final outcome, but about the whole process. When you submit work that's clean, precise, error-free, the recipients, they feel at ease. They feel confident. They know that what you've done has been thoroughly thought through.
It frees up their mental energy, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to double check your work.
Exactly. Think about the mental bandwidth it frees up for others. When your colleagues or your managers get meticulously prepared work from you, they don't have to second guess it. They can trust it implicitly. And that allows them to focus their energy on their critical tasks instead of verifying yours. That's not just a signal of care, it's like a silent force multiplier for team productivity. It makes you indispensable. And this is what makes you a truly trustworthy person, which is absolutely crucial professionally and for building a strong network. If you want to grow in your career, it's not just your output that counts. Your reliability, built up through daily meticulousness, is an incredibly valuable asset. The source material frames this beautifully through what we could call the input process output model. Input is what you receive, could be data, commands, problems, whatever. Then comes the careful process: thinking, analyzing, planning, filtering. If this process is thorough and meticulous, then the output, the result, will be high quality. It significantly reduces errors and greatly enhances the impression you make. Most mistakes, actually, don't come from bad input. They usually stem from a lack of thoroughness in that middle process step.
Like skipping checks, taking shortcuts.
Precisely. Not checking fully, taking shortcuts, maybe not evaluating the potential impact of a decision before making it. And you can see this even more clearly when you compare someone who takes responsibility versus someone who tends to shift blame. A meticulous person is generally brave enough to take responsibility because they're confident, they've considered all the angles, they've tried their best. If they do make a mistake, and everyone does, they're ready to learn from it, adapt. This is really different from those who frequently blame others, which often just indicates a lack of emotional growth, maybe an unwillingness to admit their own weaknesses. Sure, those individuals might evade consequences sometimes, but they can't progress far in the long run. People around them start seeing them as untrustworthy. So you see, meticulousness isn't just some small work behavior. It's a foundational skill for maturity, for true professionalism, and for the trust others place in you. And those are the keys to genuine career success.
That truly reframes meticulousness. Wow. It's not just about accuracy. It's about building this like invisible currency of trust. It's about being the person who quietly elevates everyone around them just by being thorough. But trust, even with the most meticulous work, well, it can sometimes be tested, right?
Yeah.
Especially when feedback comes your way. And that brings us perfectly to our second vital quality, the sometimes uncomfortable but always essential openness to criticism. It's often the very thing that makes people stop developing, even really capable people, that deep fear of negative feedback. But here's where it gets really interesting, because how we perceive criticism can fundamentally change our entire trajectory.
Precisely. Successful individuals, they aren't defined by a lack of mistakes. No one avoids mistakes entirely. They're defined by how quickly and effectively they learn from them. Every single critique, every piece of feedback is valuable data. Every observation is a reflection of something we might not see in ourselves, our own blind spots. So, openness to criticism isn't about surrendering or admitting you're not good enough. It's about bravely facing reality and using that truth to get better daily. Many successful professionals didn't get there because they never messed up. They got there because they learned rapidly from every bit of feedback. They understood that to truly grow, you have to be willing to look at your blind spots. And often it's others who hold the mirror up for us. There's research from Stanford University that highlights this beautifully with the concept of the growth mindset. People with this mindset, they don't view criticism as some kind of judgment on their core identity or their inherent worth. Instead, they embrace it as an invaluable opportunity, a chance to learn and grow. And this perspective, it leads to continuous sustainable development because they don't waste energy avoiding uncomfortable truths or protecting their ego. They just use every piece of information to enhance their own quality. It's the total opposite of a fixed mindset, where you might believe your abilities are static, set in stone.
And so any criticism feels like a personal attack, a threat.
Exactly. It becomes a threat to your self-image.
That's a really powerful framework. Viewing criticism as data for growth, not a personal attack. But, I mean, how do you know what feedback is actually useful? Not all criticism is created equal, right? Sometimes it just feels, well, destructive, not helpful at all.
You've hit on a crucial point there. It's true, not every word we hear is going to help us grow. Sometimes it's just noise or someone else's negativity. So a key skill is learning to differentiate. You need to sort the signal from the noise. Think about constructive criticism versus destructive criticism. Constructive feedback usually addresses a specific behavior or a specific piece of work. Its aim is your development. And importantly, it often offers actionable suggestions, something concrete you can do to improve. It feels like it comes from a place of wanting to help.
Okay, so it's specific and actionable.
Right. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, often targets you personally, your identity. It might aim to devalue you, or it leaves you feeling bad, but with no clear path forward. No idea what to do differently. It might come from someone's envy, maybe their insecurity, or sometimes just poor communication skills on their part. If we can train ourselves to listen mindfully, maybe separate the emotional delivery from the core message, we can often still extract some value, use it to fuel our growth, and just let the harmful noise pass by.
Mastering the art of listening to criticism is genuinely difficult, though, let's be honest. It's because of that natural human instinct to defend ourselves. We often feel fear or shame or just a sense that criticism is a judgment. Our ego instinctively wants to protect us from what feels like a threat.
Yeah, that defensiveness kicks in almost automatically sometimes.
It does. But if we can train ourselves to listen to understand rather than just to defend, we start to see things differently. We realize, hey, no one is perfect right from the start. Everyone has room to learn. When we accept that we can still develop, that our current state isn't our final destination, well, that unlocks new doors to true, profound growth. It's about acknowledging where you are right now, while simultaneously believing in your future potential to be better.
So it's about seeing criticism not as diminishing you, but actually as strengthening you. It takes a lot of courage, though, doesn't it? Especially when it feels really uncomfortable in the moment.
It absolutely does take courage. But embracing criticism doesn't diminish confidence. It actually strengthens it in the long run. By acknowledging areas for growth, you open yourself up to true, sustained development. Think about some inspiring examples, like Thomas Edison, whose teachers apparently called him too stupid to learn and suggested he just give up. Yeah. He could have taken that as destructive criticism and just quit. But instead, he channeled it, right? He experimented thousands of times, and eventually we got the light bulb. Or think about numerous world-class athletes. Michael Jordan, for instance, faced intense skepticism and criticism early in his career, yet they used that feedback as fuel. Fuel to prove themselves, fuel to improve, and eventually they became legends. They didn't let the noise define them, they let it refine them. And similarly, we too can transform our lives if we just dare to listen without judging ourselves too harshly, believing that we can always develop no matter how many times we've stumbled or felt inadequate before. The courage to openly receive criticism isn't a weakness, it's the very starting point of true professionalism. It's a readiness to never stop growing, to advance steadily and gracefully. It's about leveraging every experience for improvement.
That's a powerful call to action, really. Leverage every experience. Okay, moving on to our third crucial quality, and this one is often overlooked. The courage to accept responsibility voluntarily, without waiting for someone to assign it. It's interesting because many capable people seem to hit a development ceiling precisely because they don't embrace this enough. They wait to be told what to do.
That's exactly right. This connects to what's sometimes called the owner's mindset. Highly successful people aren't just good at following orders, they actively take initiative. They don't see themselves as mere employees or, cogs in a machine. They see themselves as owners of every piece of work they touch, whether it's large or small. They tend to possess a longer-term vision that goes beyond their current job title, and they strive for excellence even when no one is watching. This behavior often marks out natural leaders. They're the ones generating results before being officially granted a position. They build trust before anyone asks them to act. Responsibility, in this sense, isn't just about completing tasks. It's feeling a deep sense of ownership, even if it's not acknowledged right away.
Ownership, even when it's not your job, on paper. That sounds like it could be draining, or maybe lead to burnout if you're taking on too much. How do you balance that?
That's a fair question. It's not about doing everyone else's job. It's about mindset and selective action. Cultivating this habit actually starts with very small actions, things that don't necessarily add huge burdens, like tidying up the office kitchen without being told, helping a colleague who's clearly struggling with a problem, even if it's not strictly your duty, or maybe volunteering for those complex tasks that others tend to avoid. These small acts are like watering a plant daily. The results aren't immediate. You don't get a promotion tomorrow for cleaning the microwave. But when opportunities arise, the consistently responsible person, the one with that owner's mindset, is always noticed first. Why? Because they've accumulated trust, little by little. You could think of responsibility as a kind of currency. Responsibility currency. Its value steadily increases the more consistently you practice it, until it just becomes an ingrained habit. And the contrast between different approaches here is really stark. Think about those who wait for orders versus those who proactively engage. The first group sticks to their defined limits. They often fear making mistakes outside their lane, thinking, well, that's not my job.
We've all worked with that person.
Right. The latter group, though, they tend to view the entire system. They don't compartmentalize tasks quite so rigidly, and they act immediately to improve anything they see that needs improving, if they can. This proactive stance creates opportunities for themselves in almost every situation. It makes them indispensable over time. You can actually train yourself to think this way. Try asking simple daily questions like, if no one else could do this, what could I do? Or if I own this company, how would I solve this problem?
Thinking like an owner prevents you from overlooking small issues that could become big ones, and it empowers you to make decisions even when there's no clear directive. This develops problem solvers who act before issues escalate.
Can you give an analogy? Maybe something relatable.
Sure. Imagine a restaurant. You have one waiter who only responds when called over. They do their job, take the order, bring the food. Then you have another waiter who notices your water glass is empty and refills it without you even having to ask.
Ah, I see the difference immediately. Exactly. The second waiter might not get praised every single time they do that, but customers remember them. They feel cared for. They're more likely to return, maybe leave a better tip. It's that proactive ownership. Or think about an iconic example like Elon Musk. He didn't wait for orders or for market validation for things like SpaceX or Tesla early on. He undertook these risky, seemingly impossible ventures, embracing full responsibility for all the implications, financial, reputational, future impact. And today, his once misunderstood visions have genuinely transformed entire industries like automotive and space exploration. Now, obviously, that's an extreme example, but the principle applies at all levels. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the courage to take responsibility, even when it's unassigned, doesn't just transform you. It can genuinely change the world around you, starting small, right where you are today.
Starting small, right where you are. That's a powerful theme emerging. Now, for our fourth quality, believing in yourself, even when you don't feel skilled yet. This is fascinating because in the world of development, it often seems like it's not the most talented who progress the fastest, but those who believe they can, even when they're still figuring things out, even in their imperfection.
Exactly. The people who believe they can do it will dare to push through the uncertainty. They'll practice repeatedly and they'll learn from their mistakes with a more open mind because failure isn't seen as final. Confidence, true confidence, isn't some kind of self-deception where you think you're perfect. Not at all. It's more like an internal affirmation. A belief that even if you're not skilled today, you possess the inherent potential to develop. It's that inner spark. The thing that pushes you forward even when the path looks dark or the destination isn't totally clear. Because you believe you can go, you often end up going further than those who wait for absolute readiness. And let's face it, the truth is, you'll likely never feel 100% ready for anything truly new or significant.
That feeling of readiness is so elusive, isn't it? It often only comes after you've started.
Precisely. Readiness often follows action, rather than preceding it. And it's really important here to distinguish true confidence from arrogance. They can look similar on the surface sometimes, but they're fundamentally different. True confidence means accepting your strength and your limitations simultaneously. It's having the courage to admit, okay, I'm not skilled at this yet, while still firmly believing you can learn and improve. It's humble, yet determined. Arrogance, on the other hand, denies mistakes. It disregards input from others. It operates from a belief that it's already the best, so why would it need to develop?
So arrogance actually shuts down growth.
Completely. An arrogant person has already decided they know everything, which immediately closes the door to learning. A genuinely confident person, however, sees themselves as a lifelong student. They're willing to learn even from criticism, as we discussed. They're ready to act despite feeling fear. And they're able to accept failure without it crushing their self-worth. They understand the path to mastery is rarely a smooth, straight line. But critically, they know you don't need to be perfect to begin.
That's a crucial mindset shift, truly. It reminds me of how often we wait for some kind of external green light when the real power is just in starting messy, starting imperfectly. I know personally there have been so many times I've kind of paralyzed myself waiting to feel ready. What's one practical exercise, maybe beyond just positive affirmations, that someone could do, like tonight, to start building that tiny muscle of self-belief?
That's a great question because it really is about action, not just thinking. Practical steps often involve repeatedly doing the thing you fear, but in really small, manageable increments. Baby steps. For example, if speaking up in meetings makes you nervous, don't aim to lead the meeting tomorrow. Just start by contributing one small relevant point in a small team meeting, then maybe 2 points next time. Build up gradually.
Okay, break it down.
Exactly. Or if you're tackling a completely new task, don't expect immediate perfection. Focus on simply starting, completing just the very first step, no matter how imperfect it feels. Each small success, no matter how tiny it seems, registers in your brain as positive reinforcement. It automatically starts building self-confidence. The more you do, the more your brain starts to realize, hey, I can do this. It's like building muscle memory, but for your confidence.
Yeah.
And the power of self-talk definitely helps immensely too. Daily positive self-talk can be simple but really effective, especially when you feel that internal resistance kicking in. Instead of thinking, I can't do this, maybe try shifting it to, okay, today I might not be great at this yet, but I'm definitely better than I was yesterday. Or, yeah, I might still be scared, but I'm brave enough to at least start.
Framing it as progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Those who consistently speak positively to themselves have a much greater chance of growth because they don't trap themselves in that cycle of uncertainty or allow those negative inner voices to dominate. They actively choose their internal narrative. And think about inspiring figures who started from zero, right? Without initial skill, but they bravely believed in their potential. Take Jack Ma. Famously rejected from over 10 jobs, including KFC apparently, spoke poor English, had no tech background. Yet he believed his concept for Alibaba would work. And he started building it despite having basically zero external validation at the beginning.
That takes incredible self-belief.
It does. Or consider Colonel Sanders. He really started KFC seriously when he was nearly 70, after countless failures and other ventures throughout his life. He could have easily just given up, said, I'm too old, it's too late. But he believed life could always restart, that his idea still had value. The point is, you can build confidence from within. You don't have to wait for anyone's praise or external validation. Just accept yourself where you are right now, acknowledge the fear, and dare to take one small step at a time. Your power isn't gone, even if you've failed before or been compared negatively to others. It's just waiting for you to believe in yourself again. Let's compare two people facing a significant presentation, maybe. The pessimist thinks, oh God, I'll be laughed at if I make a mistake, or I'll be totally belittled if I can't answer a question perfectly. This thought process just leads to stress, pressure, and likely avoidance of the task altogether. They might make excuses, or maybe they do it but perform poorly because of all that internal anxiety.
Yeah, the fear paralyzes them.
Yeah. Right. The optimist, though, thinks differently. Maybe something like, okay, this might not be perfect, but I'll practice. It's a chance to learn. Mistakes are just lessons. They prepare with intention and they dare take the stage, even if they're nervous. The one who dares to begin, despite the fear, develops much faster. Why? Because they create more opportunities for action and learning, rather than waiting for that elusive feeling of 100% readiness that might never come. The beginning of real change isn't skill. It's the courage to believe you can always improve. Your power isn't gone. It's waiting for you to believe in yourself again. Don't let that voice in your head saying, I'm not ready, overshadow the part of you, your heart maybe, that yearns to grow. You possess more power than you probably think. Just start believing and take that step, even if you're still afraid.
That's a really profound thought. The courage to believe you can always improve, even when you're afraid. It's not about being fearless, is it? It's about acting despite the fear. Okay, let's pivot now from internal belief to external knowledge, because our fifth quality delves into the power of continuous learning. Reading books, articles, research in your field. It isn't just about accumulating data points, is it? It's about a profound self-development that actually changes who you are and prepares you for whatever comes next.
Indeed. Consistently seeking out new knowledge, even just small amounts daily, builds this crucial foundation. It's often what transforms followers into leaders, sometimes without them even realizing it's happening. In a world that's changing so rapidly, where information and technology evolve constantly, outdated knowledge just isn't sufficient anymore. Relying only on old habits, even if you have vast experience, is like being captain of a ship without a new map while the seas are constantly shifting.
You might know your current waters, but if the currents change,
You're lost. Exactly. True leaders aren't just great speakers or motivators. They often foresee how the world is changing, and they prepare before the problems emerge. They stay current. And that allows them to anticipate, to innovate, and to guide others effectively through uncertainty. Following new knowledge, whether it's through books, maybe podcasts like this one, or research summaries, it trains your brain to be flexible, to be ready for change without panicking. Continuous learners always have this rich reservoir of new ideas they can draw from. Unlike those who get stuck in old paradigms, they don't get left behind when the world inevitably shifts. When new challenges arise, they aren't starting from scratch. They have this store of diverse information they can connect, adapt, and build upon. This mental agility, it becomes a kind of superpower in a world defined by constant change.
I can definitely relate to that. When I stop learning, I really feel like I'm stagnating. It's almost a physical feeling. But for someone listening who feels maybe overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information out there, I mean, it's like a fire hose sometimes. What's a practical approach to this continuous learning without it feeling like just another chore on the to-do list? Does it have to be hours of reading every single day?
No, not at all. That's a really common feeling, being overwhelmed. The key is quality over quantity. Reading doesn't have to be voluminous, it just needs to be purposeful and qualitative. One really effective method is to read with a specific objective in mind. Read to solve a particular work problem you're facing. Read to find new ideas for a project you're working on. Or maybe read to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of a research paper relevant to your field. This gives your reading focus a clear why.
So reading for something, not just reading about something.
Precisely. And then, after reading, try summarizing it in your own words. Don't just copy phrases. Then, if possible, try explaining what you learned to someone else. If you can explain it clearly, it's a good sign you truly understand it. If you struggle to explain it, well, you've just identified an area where you need to dig a bit deeper. So reading in this active sense isn't just about passively absorbing information. It transforms information into understanding, and then understanding into practical application in your daily work. It's an active process. And the long-term result of this consistent learning is huge. You remain relevant. You remain invaluable, regardless of your current position or even shifts in your industry. You become a source of ideas, a source of advice, someone others naturally consult. Conversely, those who get stuck in outdated methods, no matter how much expertise they had in the past, they risk being replaced by new technology or by newcomers who are adept with modern tools and approaches.
What you know today isn't enough for tomorrow.
Exactly. What you know today doesn't guarantee relevance tomorrow without that continued learning. So continuous engagement with new knowledge is a vital long-term investment in your career and your personal relevance. It ensures you're not just surviving, but actually thriving in a dynamic landscape. No, to build that consistent reading discipline, especially on days when you feel tired or really pressed for time, start incredibly small. Don't set yourself up for failure. Aim for just, say, 5 minutes a day. Or maybe commit to reading just 2 pages. Or dedicate a specific time when your mind is generally fresh, maybe right after waking up or just before bed. Make it a routine, a non-negotiable part of your day, like brushing your teeth.
Anchor it to an existing habit.
That's a great technique. As it becomes habitual, as your brain gets used to it, you'll find yourself naturally seeking out material without needing so much willpower. And then, in the next stage, you'll find you can adjust to more challenging content because your foundational understanding has deepened. As you read more frequently, your ability to synthesize information, to analyze it, it just grows. It leads to more systematic thinking and eventually true expertise in your field, without needing anyone to officially appoint you as an expert.
Ultimately, then, success isn't solely about talent, is it? It really comes from consistent practice. Those who start with curiosity, practice steadily, adapt quickly to new information, and develop daily. They'll just have far more opportunities than those who remain stagnant, regardless of their past achievements. Reading really is a long-term investment in yourself. It's like a ladder from where you are today to where you aspire to be, hopefully with unwavering confidence. Okay, now let's discuss something that seems almost too simple, too basic to be a pathway to unwavering success. But trust me, it's absolutely foundational. Punctuality. It might seem like just a minor daily detail, right? Something your parents nagged you about. Maybe not something you'd even think about as a success quality.
Yeah.
But it's actually a fundamental bedrock of discipline, of responsibility, and crucially, of trustworthiness in the eyes of others.
Yeah, it seems small, but it raises an important question. Why does punctuality matter so much? What's the big deal about being 5 minutes late? Well, consistent punctuality means you respect both yourself and others, because time, unlike money, is a truly irreplaceable resource. Once it's gone, it's gone. When you are on time consistently, you are silently signaling some really important things. You're signaling that you value what you do, that you uphold your word, and that you honor other people's time as much as your own. This consistent behavior builds deep trust. And it's not just trust that you'll be on time for the next meeting. It extends to trust that you'll deliver on your work, that you'll do it well, that you won't just abandon your responsibilities. It's like a quiet promise you keep moment by moment, day after day. And punctual individuals, interestingly, often receive opportunities first. Why? Because they demonstrate this internal readiness without needing to speak a word. Imagine you're a manager, okay? You've got a critical, highly time-sensitive task. Who do you assign it to? The person who's frequently late, who might or might not show up fully ready, or the one who never misses a deadline, the one you know you can always count on?
The answer's pretty obvious when you put it like that.
It is, isn't it? Punctuality is a remarkably reliable indicator of behavioral stability. Consistent timekeeping usually translates directly to consistency in other areas. Delivering work on time, following through on plans, honoring commitments to the team. This is the mark of someone suited for significant opportunities. Not necessarily because they're the most brilliant person in the room, but because they are demonstrably the most reliable. And reliability is the currency of responsibility.
That's a powerful way to frame it. Punctuality is a silent signal of quality, of reliability. It makes me think, though, for someone who consistently struggles with being on time, what's often the root cause? Is it always just a lack of respect, or could there be other underlying factors, things that might need addressing before they can truly cultivate this habit?
That's a very empathetic and important question. It's rarely just disrespect, though it can certainly be perceived that way. Cultivating punctuality doesn't usually require drastic life changes, but it absolutely requires self-awareness. You have to be honest with yourself. Start by honestly assessing what usually delays you. What's the pattern? Is it getting lost scrolling on your phone just before you need to leave?
Just one more minute trap?
Exactly. Or is it not preparing your clothes or your bag the night before? Maybe it's consistently overestimating how much time you actually have to get somewhere, that good old optimism bias. Oh, it only takes 10 minutes. What really takes 20? Or perhaps it's a deeper issue with planning or prioritizing or even anxiety about the event itself. Once you identify your personal weak spots, your patterns, you can gradually adjust. Maybe add a small time buffer for each activity. Set alarms not just for waking up, but for leaving the house. Leave now, not start getting ready. Or, and this can be crucial, try reframing punctuality. Don't see it as a stressful obligation, another thing to worry about. See it as a matter of personal honor, of pride, a commitment you make to yourself and others. When you view it as a personal value, it feels less like a chore and more like self-care, actually, like keeping your word to yourself. Repeated minor lateness, just a few minutes here, 5 minutes there, it might seem harmless initially, no big deal, right? But over time, it cumulatively builds an image of unreliability. Chronically late individuals can gradually find themselves excluded from important opportunities. Some people even lose jobs or damage important relationships, not because they lack ability, but simply because others lose confidence in their readiness and their respect for shared time.
And it probably damages their self-image too, right? Constantly feeling rushed, always apologizing.
Absolutely. The psychological damage is internal as well. You start to doubt your own control over your life. It slowly erodes your true potential and your confidence in your own capability. It can create this self-fulfilling prophecy of being perpetually behind, always playing catch-up. Psychologists and discipline experts often confirm that practicing punctuality is one of the most effective ways to train self-control. Think about it. It involves prioritizing, planning ahead, and saying no to distractions that might derail you. Success in this seemingly small area builds momentum for tackling larger life challenges. It's just like consistent muscle training builds physical strength. This builds mental discipline. Before changing habits, we often make excuses, don't we? I was busy, the traffic was terrible, I was just so tired. But by choosing intention over excuses, you start to realize you actually control more of your life than you might have thought. The first time you make a real effort and you're punctual, you might not see a huge change, but with persistence, you'll start to build self-pride. Your brain registers, hey, I can do this. Eventually becomes an automatic habit. It transforms you into a more confident, self-controlled person who's no longer burdened by that constant feeling of rushing and stress. There's a good example in popular culture, actually. Consider Tanjiro Kamado from the anime, Demon Slayer. He wasn't the strongest or the most skilled swordsman at the beginning, not by a long shot. But he was consistently the most disciplined. He was never late for training. He never neglected his practice, even pushing through extreme fatigue daily. His transformation wasn't instant. It accumulated slowly through relentless practice, punctuality, and honoring his commitments to himself and his goals. He became a swordsman strong in both skill and spirit. A true example of how inner change, like discipline, leads to outer success. Punctuality really is this quiet indicator of a person's quality. It silently signals trustworthiness and discipline. Ultimately, career success isn't always reserved for the most talented. It often goes to those who consistently do the small things with unwavering steadfastness, like being on time every single day.
That's powerful. It's about inner stability impacting outer performance. The consistency of being on time truly underpins so much else, doesn't it? And speaking of inner stability, this next quality is, well, it can be incredibly challenging, but it's absolutely vital for true professionalism. Separating personal emotions from your work. It's not easy, we all know that.
but it's such a crucial sign of deep emotional maturity, and it really defines how resilient you are under pressure.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is that no one, absolutely no one, is immune to stress or worry or anger or sadness bleeding over from personal life. We all have those days, those moments, those struggles. But tree professionals manage to maintain the quality of their work even when their internal emotional state isn't optimal. They understand that emotions are kind of like waves passing through. They're real, they're valid, but they aren't meant to completely engulf every part of their lives or dictate all their professional actions. Now, this separation, it isn't about becoming cold or emotionless like some kind of robot. Not at all.
That's an important distinction. It's not about suppression.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging your feelings, letting them exist without letting them harm critical aspects of your life. Things like your team relationships, your credibility, or the actual quality of your output. It's about not letting your bad mood become a toxic cloud that hangs over your work and affects everyone else. Because if personal emotions do consistently bleed into work, you might unknowingly change your behavior in negative ways. You might become irritable with colleagues. You might not listen effectively in meetings because your mind is elsewhere. You might make emotionally charged, reactive decisions instead of rational ones. Or you might start perceiving every comment as a personal attack, even if it's not intended that way at all.
And that impacts the whole team dynamic, doesn't it?
Hugely. These behaviors don't just affect you. They create tension, suspicion, they reduce teamwork and collaboration. It's like having a loose gear in a complex machine. One person's emotional instability, especially if they're volatile, can disrupt or even break the entire system, particularly in situations that require collective effort towards a shared goal. It just erodes trust and makes others wary of collaborating with you.
Hey, so it's not about ignoring your feelings, but about managing their impact. That makes sense. But how does one practically achieve that? Especially in really high-pressure situations or when facing intense personal challenges, it sounds incredibly difficult to just turn off your emotions when you walk into the office or log on to a call.
You're right, it's not about turning off emotions. That's usually impossible and probably unhealthy anyway. Emotional control isn't about bottling everything up inside until you eventually explode. That's suppression, and it backfires. It's more about becoming aware of your feelings, recognizing them as they arise, and then consciously choosing how to respond, rather than just reacting instinctively based on that feeling.
Mm.
You can start by just observing your own emotional signals. What does stress feel like in your body? Maybe rapid breathing, a racing heart. What about that negative self-talk that starts spiraling?
Just noticing it
Yeah.
without judgment.
Exactly, just notice it. Then you can use simple mindfulness techniques. Pause and take 3 deep breaths before replying to that heated email. Maybe jot down your frustrated thoughts privately before going into a challenging meeting, or even listen to a piece of music that helps reset your mood before starting a difficult task. These short moments of grounding, they create a small but crucial space between the stimulus, the feeling, and your response, your action. They help you act with intention, not just raw emotion. Many professionals also use psychological techniques like setting intentions. It sounds simple, but it can be effective. Before starting your workday, maybe quietly tell yourself, okay, today I will aim to work calmly, or today I will focus on listening more than I speak, or I will acknowledge my feelings, but I won't let them guide my decisions.
Like setting a direction for your mind.
Precisely. While it might seem small, your brain actually registers these intentions and tends to align your behavior accordingly, at least somewhat. The more you practice this awareness and intention setting, the clearer that separation between your emotional space and your workspace becomes. It requires less and less conscious effort over time. You become someone who understands yourself better and chooses how to express yourself in a way that doesn't harm others or yourself in the long run. Consider Barack Obama again. As former U.S. president, he obviously faced numerous huge national crises, all while being a human being with family pressures and personal fears, just like anyone else. He reportedly made a practice of spending 5 minutes in silence before major meetings just to recenter himself. He believed that leaders, especially, must remain steady, particularly under pressure. If their own mind isn't calm, their decisions, their work will likely fall apart.
That inner stability piece again.
It is. It teaches us that inner stability is often more important than just external intelligence or technical skill in many high-stakes situations. It's the calm center that allows wisdom and good judgment to emerge. Think about it. Many mistakes, big and small, happen because of emotional instability, not because of a lack of information. We might feel emotionally pressured to respond too quickly, and so we choose poorly. Or we might flee from a difficult but necessary conversation. For example, reacting defensively and emotionally to a boss's critique instead of listening calmly to understand the feedback. Or maybe taking out a morning argument you had with your partner on your unsuspecting colleagues throughout the day.
We've all seen or done that,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Emotions are incredibly powerful forces, and if you don't learn to manage them, they will absolutely manage you. They can make you say things you deeply regret or cause you to miss opportunities you desperately need. Ultimately, career success isn't just about being good at what you do, it's also about being adept at managing yourself when the world inevitably doesn't go exactly as planned. Separating personal emotions from work proves you're mature enough to take responsibility not only for your tasks, but also for the atmosphere and the energy you bring to your team. That is true professionalism, and it's something you can actively build within yourself starting today.
That's really powerful. It's about managing yourself, your inner world, so you can manage your outer world more effectively. And once you've achieved that kind of stability, you can then truly focus on growth in a constructive way. Which brings us to our eighth quality, constantly improving your previous work. This focuses on creating a continuous loop of growth. The people who truly excel, they seem to understand that past success is absolutely not a guarantee for the future. In fact, sometimes past success can even be a trap if you just rest on your laurels and stop pushing.
Precisely. Rapid skill development, sustainable growth. It isn't really about starting out superior to everyone else. It's about never ceasing to improve, even when you seem to be performing well, even when you're getting praise. The courage to actually revisit your old work, to identify imperfections with fresh eyes, and to make small enhancements, that's a crucial process. It's what forges true professionalism over time. It hones your evaluative eye, sharpens your analytical thinking, and cultivates a mindset that isn't just fixated on good enough. It fosters an internal drive for mastery, not just for external approval or avoiding criticism. It becomes a continuous journey, a mindset of perpetual refinement. Reviewing your past successful projects, it's almost like having a conversation with your former self, isn't it?
Yeah, looking back at what you were thinking then,
Exactly. You observe your thought process, the decisions you made at that moment, and then you consider, okay, knowing what I know now, would I make the same choices today? This isn't about harsh self-criticism or beating yourself up. It's a really powerful way to glean lessons, to maintain your standards, and even to actively elevate them over time. This iterative process helps you identify your own patterns of error much faster, which, in turn, makes your future work more efficient and the results deeper, sharper, more impactful. You learn from your own trajectory, building intelligently on your strengths and consciously addressing your weaknesses.
that makes so much sense. It's like becoming your own best coach, always looking for that extra edge, that incremental improvement. But I could see how for some people this could easily tip over into a negative loop of unhealthy perfectionism, right?
Right.
Where nothing ever feels good enough. How do you find that balance? How do you keep it constructive?
That's a very real challenge, absolutely. The drive to constantly improve can sometimes lead to feeling never good enough or getting trapped in an excessive, draining focus on self-perfectionism. To manage this, it's vital to consciously separate the intention to develop from self-condemnation or negative self-judgment. Try to stop saying, I'm not good enough, and instead reframe it internally as, I can be even better, or how can I make this 1% better next time?
Shifting from judgment to potential.
Exactly. Seeing improvement as an opportunity, not as evidence of a fundamental flaw, makes the development process actually enjoyable, or at least rewarding. It prevents that emotional drain that comes from the relentless pursuit of unattainable perfection. If we view improvement as an opportunity, we find joy in the process itself. We don't feel guilty or drained by imperfection. Instead, we feel energized by the potential for growth. Now, improving past work doesn't mean you have to do a complete overhaul of absolutely everything you've ever done. That's overwhelming and impractical. It's about strategic improvement, focused refinement. Start by asking maybe 3 key questions about a past project or task. First, where do I still feel a bit unsure about this piece of work? What part still nags at me? Second, where did others, clients, colleagues, my boss ask repeated questions or seem confused? That's usually a sign something wasn't clear enough. And third, what single small change could potentially have a significant positive impact on the overall outcome? The 80-20 rule, essentially.
Find the high leverage points.
Precisely. Then, prioritize the changes that offer the highest impact for the effort involved. This keeps you from getting bogged down in minor, insignificant details and focuses your energy on true value addition. It's about making smart, targeted improvements, not just endlessly tweaking for the sake of it. The iconic innovator, Steve Jobs, really exemplifies this principle of continuous improvement. Even after the iPhone achieved massive global success, became a cultural phenomenon, he never stopped innovating, did he? Every single year, he and his team introduced new versions that addressed previous issues, added new features, refined the user experience, always pushing. He famously said something like, "Details are what distinguish the ordinary from the extraordinary." We can learn from him that daring to continually refine existing work, even successful work, is what differentiates average performers from those who truly change the world or their field. It's this constant push for better, even when things are already good, that defines true excellence and creates lasting legacies. The internal transformation that comes from cultivating this habit is really profound. Think about the before. Before the shift, you might have been content with work that was just submitted on time, or maybe work that simply avoided criticism. That was the goal. But during the process of embracing continuous improvement, you start to see every piece of work as a learning ground. You notice details you previously overlooked. You start desiring subtle improvements, not because someone told you to, but because you want it to be better. Development becomes this ingrained habit, driven by an internal desire for mastery, not just external pressure or the fear of being criticized.
It becomes intrinsic motivation.
Exactly. And after this integration happens, you'll clearly see how your once merely adequate work transforms into deep, high-quality output. You earn greater respect from colleagues, sure, but more importantly, from yourself. The most profound internal change here is accepting that even if you're not the absolute best in the world right now, you can always improve. You can always get better. This belief system is what will propel you forward steadily and sustainably throughout your entire career. Because those who continually refine the work they do every day, well, they don't necessarily need to change the world. They truly change their own lives and their own potential.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about personal evolution, isn't it? A continuous upward spiral of growth driven from within. Okay, our final, but by no means least important, quality. And this one really ties so many of these others together. Accountability in your field. This isn't just some fancy corporate buzzword you stick on your resume. It's a critical, fundamental trait that employers, colleagues, and even clients value perhaps more than anything else. It's the ultimate measure of reliability and ownership.
Exactly. True accountability, deep accountability, means doing something not just because you're told to or because it's on your checklist. It means doing it because you deeply understand its impact on the team, on the organizational goals, on the client, whatever it may be. Accountable individuals don't just wait passively for instructions. They don't pass the buck or make excuses when things go wrong. They don't simply rush to finish tasks just to get them off their plate. Instead, they focus on the quality of the outcome and the true completion of the work's purpose. They take ownership. They see the task through to its meaningful conclusion. And accountability differs significantly from just doing your duty. Duty is about doing what you're assigned. Accountability is about looking at the bigger picture.
Owning the outcome, not just the task.
Precisely. The accountable person considers, who is affected by my work? How can I ensure this delivers real value? And they strive for excellence, even when no one is watching them. They care deeply about the outcomes and the impact, rather than just completing a task for the sake of checking a box. Their observable behaviors are usually quite clear. They don't just leave work hanging or pending without informing the relevant parties. They don't let the rest of the team bear the brunt of their problems or delays if they can help it. And crucially, they are brave enough to admit when their work has flaws or when they've made a mistake. They own it. They take responsibility for the result, not just the initial effort.
That distinction between duty and true accountability feels really key. It sounds like accountability is almost a form of leadership in itself, regardless of your official title on the org chart. How does cultivating this trait specifically translate into career progression? Why is it so valued?
It's absolutely a form of leadership. You've nailed it. And this quality significantly boosts career progression because fundamentally, organizations need trustworthy people they can rely on. Desperately. Those who consistently demonstrate true accountability are the ones entrusted with more critical tasks. They're given leadership opportunities, even informal ones at first. And they're often recommended for better roles and higher compensation down the line. Think about it from an employer's perspective. They pay not just for your output, but for the confidence they have in you. Confidence in your reliability, your judgment, your ownership.
They're buying predictability and trustworthiness.
Exactly. If a leader knows they can give you a task, any task, and you will not only complete it, but truly own the outcome, troubleshoot problems, and see it through, you become an incredibly invaluable asset. That confidence is currency,
Mm.
real currency in the workplace. You can actually gauge your own level of accountability by observing the kinds of internal questions you ask yourself about your work. Do you find yourself asking, how can I make this better? More often than just, what do I need to do to get this done? Do you review your submitted work, maybe follow up on its impact, or do you just kind of leave it to fate once it's out of your hands? Off my plate mentality. A mind that is genuinely dedicated to the outcome of its work signals true accountability, not just task completion. It goes back to that ownership mindset we discussed earlier. Now, how do you foster accountability, especially for those tasks you might not love 100%? The tedious ones, the necessary
Yeah,
evils.
that's the real test sometimes, isn't it?
It really is. One way is to consciously reframe your mindset. Tell yourself something like, okay, this task might not be my passion, but it's actually a training ground. It's training for discipline, for composure, for doing what's necessary, even when I'd rather be doing something else. Then, practice it actively by setting small, concrete goals related to accountability. Maybe aim to finish it well before the deadline, not just scraping by. Double check it meticulously, even if you don't think anyone else will. Or maybe daily ask yourself, what did I do today that went beyond my basic duties that demonstrated true ownership? With consistent practice, you'll begin to shift your perspective almost automatically. Work stops being something you do solely for your boss or for your team. Instead, it becomes a reflection of your own accountability, your own commitment to quality, your own standards. As you develop this, you'll start seeing tangible results. Increased trust from others, maybe new opportunities presenting themselves unexpectedly, and definitely a deeper, more profound sense of self-pride and competence. There's a great example in Kazuo Inamori, the Japanese businessman who built Kyocera and KDDI, basically from nothing into huge national networks. His guiding principle was reportedly something along the lines of, if no one else does it, I will, and don't wait for anyone to push you.
Wow. Radical ownership.
Totally. He believed success comes from taking personal responsibility for every decision, big or small, and crucially, for the consequences of those decisions. This aligns perfectly with everyone's growth journey, really. You start by being responsible for the small things, ensuring your work is completed on time, not overlooking details even when you think no one's looking. He truly embodied that entrepreneurial spirit of radical self-reliance and ownership. The final transformation that comes from practicing accountability is quite remarkable. Think about the before state again. Most people work primarily from a place of obligation, maybe fear, without genuine ownership. During the process of cultivating accountability, you start to realize that even if your work isn't perfect, putting in your best effort, taking responsibility for it, brings a genuine sense of pride in your contribution. And after integration, accountability becomes an automatic, ingrained habit. You no longer have to force yourself because you fundamentally become a person everyone trusts to handle any situation, no matter how complex or challenging it might be. This is the path where accountability leads you to a stable, sustainable form of success, not just because you can do the work, but because you are someone who fundamentally never abandons responsibility, no matter how difficult the duty might seem.
Wow. We've really journeyed deep into these 9 profound qualities that truly seem to underpin unwavering success. From that meticulous detail orientation that quietly builds trust, to the profound openness to criticism that fuels continuous learning, the courage to take voluntary responsibility, that powerful self-belief even when you're starting out, the discipline of continuous reading and learning, the foundational respect shown through punctuality, the emotional maturity to separate feelings from tasks, that vital commitment to continuously improving your own past work, and finally, the unwavering accountability for your work that makes you truly indispensable. These really aren't just abstract concepts floating out there, are they?
Exactly. What we've discussed today, it isn't really about being born with some innate talent. It's certainly not about some grand stroke of luck. It's about building consistent daily habits. It's about who you become through these practices, day in, day out. These are the real keys, not just to professional achievement, hitting those external goals, but also to a deep, unshakable sense of inner growth and self-worth.
And these qualities, they aren't just reserved for the super successful people you read about in magazines, the CEOs or the famous public figures. They are for you, for the everyday learner listening right now who is committed to continuous growth, committed to showing up for yourself and for your goals every single day, even when it's hard. So as you reflect on this deep dive we've taken, maybe consider which one of these 9 qualities resonated most strongly with you. perhaps one that feels like your next growth edge, the place where you could focus. And then maybe think about what single small step, just one tiny thing you can take today or maybe tomorrow to begin building that particular muscle. Because the journey of 1,000 miles or the journey to your next great achievement, it truly begins with that very first consistent step. Slight pause. What will your first step be?